Now, the U.S. has seized a fifth Venezuela-linked oil tanker. The tanker, known as Olina, was seized in the Caribbean Sea. The U.S. Southern Command put out a video of their raid on social media, and they say that the Marines were launched from the USS Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier for a pre-dawn raid. Now, they can be seen boarding the oil tanker and taking control of it. The U.S. Southern Command said that they apprehended the Olina without incident and that, I'm quoting here, there is no safe haven for criminals, is what they said. The Olina is the fifth oil tanker that the Americans have seized in recent weeks. The first was the Skipper, which is categorized as VLCC, a very large crude carrier. When the U.S. seized the ship, they said that it was a sanctioned vessel which was used to transport oil from Venezuela to Iran. On December 20th, the Americans seized the Centuries. It was a supertanker which was flying the flag of Panama. It was also intercepted in the Caribbean, east of Barbados. And back then, Venezuela had labeled these seizures serious acts of international piracy. Now, there was a brief lull before and after the U.S. abducted Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, but earlier this week, the Americans seized two more tankers. First, there was the M. Sophia, which was also seized in the Caribbean. The U.S. said it was a stateless, sanctioned dark fleet vessel, and it was said to be carrying oil to China. The other seizure, which took place on 7th of January, was of the Marinera. The ship earlier went by the name Bella 1. This capture was unique because the ship was seized all the way in the North Atlantic near Iceland. The ship had broken the U.S. naval blockade around Venezuela, but the U.S. gave chase for 2 weeks until it was seized. The other unique thing about the Marinera is that it was a Russian-flagged tanker. And reports say that a Russian submarine had been deployed to safeguard the ship, but it did not end up intervening when the Americans seized the vessel. At least 3 Indians were found among the 28-member crew of the Marinera. So were 2 Russians. Moscow has confirmed that the 2 Russian crew members have been released after Russia made a request to the U.S. President Donald Trump. And now the U.S. has seized its 5th tanker, the Olina. U.S. President Donald Trump reiterated that all Venezuelan ships will have to stay in place. He said that the U.S. and Venezuela's new interim government will work together to rebuild the country's oil infrastructure. But the blockade has not been lifted. Meanwhile, 2 new oil tankers were spotted near Havana Bay, despite the U.S. further restrict trade with the socialist island. Marlin Amulet, it's a chemical products tanker sailing under the Marshall Islands flag, docked in Havana on Thursday, while the Martin Mariner, flying the flag of Liberia, arrived on Friday morning. And to give us more details, our correspondent Susan Terani sent us this report from New York.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says that the United States has seized 2 additional oil tankers linked to Venezuelan crude, calling the move part of expanded efforts to shut down illegal shipping operations outside of U.S. sanctions. Noem said that the vessels were intercepted in international waters and warned that Washington will continue targeting what it describes as a shadow oil network. The seizures come amid a rapidly changing political landscape as Washington moves to reshape its approach to the country's energy sector. President Trump, during talks with major oil executives on Friday, said, quote, "We're going to be open for business," saying even Russia and China can buy the oil, implying Venezuelan oil, but under strict American oversight. Taken together, the actions reflect Trump's Venezuela doctrine: maximum economic pressure, aggressive maritime enforcement, and direct leverage over energy resources aimed at influencing the country's post-Maduro transition without formal military occupation. Susan Tahrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.